Hello viewers. Well, I'm making this video because something sort of happened over the weekend. Basically, last week I was approached by a journalist for Jutarnji List, which is one of Croatia's biggest newspapers, journalist named Mara Modric, and Mara asked if she could write my story. She'd stumbled upon me having seen my Indiegogo page for the new book, and she wanted to know more. So I talked to Deanna about this because this is actually quite a big deal. You would think that any kind of activism, any opportunity to get the media involved would be just jumped at, but it is different when it's here in Croatia, because as some of you know, the whole reason why I went to my judicial committee back in 2013 was to essentially tell the elders that if they tried to interfere with my family, that I would be pursuing the media and I would do everything I could in Croatia to let Croatian Jehovah's Witnesses know what was happening. I've heard it described as a deal. It wasn't really a deal because they didn't accept it. They were very defiant when I suggested that, and they basically said, well, we're gonna do what the Bible tells us to do, or however they phrased it. But in any case, there was still this sort of understanding that at the very least I wasn't going to go out of my way to get in the Croatian media, which I could have done. I could have been, badgering Croatian journalists and because it is quite a unique story. A British guy living in the middle of nowhere in Cedars, which isn't a tourist destination, and he's here having left this major religion that he's now an activist against. It is you can see the appeal of the story, but I never pursued it. And then I get approached by a journalist who's kind of stumbled on my story. And Deanna and I talked about it. And this is one of the reasons why I'm making this video, by the way, is to help, if there are any Croatians watching this who are maybe unsettled by the media exposure and want to know my side of things, my account of what happened. I want you to understand what was going through my mind, because it wasn't an easy decision. I wasn't like, yes, let's do this. As much as you may think I would have said that, it was something that we carefully deliberated. So we sat down and we talked about it, and what was decided in the end was that it would actually be hypocritical for me to not do it, because here I am, a full-time activist, spending all my time trying to help, not just help raise awareness more broadly about cults and Jehovah's Witnesses, but also more specifically trying to help current Jehovah's Witnesses and those who are still dealing with JW indoctrination long after they've left. How it would be hypocritical, or at the very least discriminatory of me, to help those in that situation who happen to speak English, but when an opportunity comes along to help people in the country where I live, where I am part of the community, it would just be wrong to turn away that opportunity. So in the end I said yes. And so last Thursday I met in Cedars with Mara. We had quite a long photo shoot by the river. They took loads of photographs. Really gifted photographer named Ivan Posavets, who I'm told is like quite a big deal in photography circles in Croatia. Once that was out of the way, we sat down and we had our interview, and the interview went on for about 2 hours, as I recall. It was a very in-depth interview. It was clear to me that Mara had really done her research. She really knew her subject, and she was really passionate about telling the story, which is always encouraging, because I have to say I have had mixed mixed experiences dealing with journalists. Just because it's a journalist doesn't mean they're going to do a good job. And with Mara, I was quite confident. But then I knew that the article would be released on Sunday, and we had some chance to do some corrections to the article before it went to press. And then on Sunday, I drove to my local supermarket and bought 3 copies of the paper, and here it is. And as you can see, it's quite a big spread. That's the first 2 pages, and I've actually translated a bit of it for you, so let me see. So in the top corner there it says, Lloyd Evans was devoted to Jehovah's Witnesses. He was a leader and an elder. Today he is an atheist, activist, the founder of the jwsurvey.org website, and the author of a book about his life in the sect. That's what it says in the corner. And in the large red area here, it says, the Briton whose life among Jehovah's Witnesses turned into hell. That's a little bit over the top, if I'm honest. But I don't think Mara wrote that bit, if I understand. But anyway, today, with his wife and daughter, lives in Cisak, deciding, irrespective of the consequences, to share his truth with the lost Croatians. So that's what the red part says. And then on the other page, let me see, thankfully no more pictures of me, but you'll see there the picture of the baptism and the convention. And this red part here, the red text, is actually statistics that were pulled from the 2016 global survey of Jehovah's Witnesses on JW Survey. So Mara actually took some of the statistics gleaned from our global survey and stuck them in a national newspaper. So I was actually really pleased about that, because that again is giving exposure to people who have taken part in the survey and shared their voice. You know, it's just found a little bit of expression in the media. And since Sunday, the article has also appeared on the newspaper's website. They've changed the heading for it and made it a little bit more sensational, if I'm being honest. Shocking confessions of an apostate. The Briton who lives with his wife and daughter in Cisak reveals that he left the sect. When I came to the Republic of Croatia, something inside me snapped. And the article continues. Now, what can I say? It's a new experience for Deanna and I to be doing this. I can't say that it's all kind of, we're all smiles and we're all excited. There is definitely an exciting, exhilarating side to telling your story, but at the same time, we're mindful of the fact that people are going to be upset about this. People are going to be angry about this. There might even be people who kind of view me as selfish for kind of setting the cat among the pigeons, and why can't you just be quiet, Lloyd? Why do you have to go upsetting people? And my answer to that is actually my answer to more or less every criticism that's been levelled at me for sharing my opinion. And that's to quote from the late, great Christopher Hitchens, who said, "The grave will supply plenty of time for silence." And that is honestly, whenever I'm in a dilemma as to whether to speak out or not, as to whether I should stay quiet or say something, especially when it's to do with abuse, especially when it's to do with a harmful religion like the Witnesses, I always think back to that mantra. And I think, yeah, you know, when I'm dead, there'll be a lot of silence coming from me. But while I can draw a breath, if I know something, if I know that there's abuse going on, and especially if someone gives me an opportunity to talk about that abuse in front of lots of people, it would actually be immoral of me to not say something, especially given the fact that I only have a finite window in which I can have an impact, in which I can do something. So of course I'm going to do something. But I just wanted to say, if anyone is watching this video from Croatia, perhaps who knows myself and Diana, maybe you're one of our former friends who speaks English, maybe you're a relative who speaks English, I don't know. But I just wanted to make it abundantly clear that we are not jumping up and down with excitement and celebrating necessarily because of this article. We would rather not have needed to say anything. But bottom line, this is an abusive religion that we're talking about. And again, it just would have been wrong to stay silent. And if you want to criticize me for speaking out, the thing to do is to point out what I've said that's wrong. I mean, Mara did a very good job on the article. There's one or two things I would honestly have written differently, because I'm a writer myself. It's always awkward to hand your life story over to someone else, especially when you are yourself a writer, and leave it in their hands to express things, especially in like another language where you're not certain that everything's being conveyed fully. But she did a great job, and I'm very grateful to her. And I'm particularly grateful because one of the main messages that I had to share, and it came across in some of the headlines when it talked about lost Croatians. I wanted to be clear that the religion in Croatia is a different religion to the religion that I know and to the religion in America and in English-speaking parts of the world, because not all of the literature is translated. So especially when you're looking at the history, the example I give in the article is Beth Sarim. I say, well, what about Beth Sarim? What about Rutherford having a house built for him in which he wrote down that he would one day be sharing it with King David and with Moses and with this assortment of Bible characters? Croatian Jehovah's Witnesses can't know about that unless they speak English, because it's not in Croatian literature. It's not in the literature that's been chosen for translation. And that's one of the main points I wanted to get across, because I feel as though Croatian Jehovah's Witnesses, maybe it's not intentional, maybe it's just purely a case of Watchtower not being able to translate everything. I'm quite happy to give Watchtower the benefit of the doubt, but nonetheless, it's a slightly different experience if you're a Croatian Jehovah's Witness and you know slightly less. So I was pleased. A few other things that were mentioned were things like the Mexico-Malawi scandal, the UN scandal, mentions child abuse. It even goes into stuff like the laws around sex and the sexual repression that young Jehovah's Witnesses have to deal with. She did a fantastic job. And those are all things that need to be talked about. And again, I'm sorry, I just cannot be brought to apologise for telling it like it is. That's sort of my thing, not just there, but in my activism work in general and on this channel. So I've already talked for longer than I planned, but I just thought it was worthwhile marking this, because this is the first time my story has appeared in print apart from the book. And it's kind of a big deal, even though for various reasons that I won't go into, it has been quite a nerve-wracking weekend for Deanna and I. But it's one of those situations where you just do what you feel is right, and you hope that it will grow wings and help people, which is bottom line what all of my activism work is about. So I hope you found this video interesting. Please don't forget to subscribe for more videos, and as always, Thank you for watching.